Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and it looks like we're at the end of another Apple release week, and this time we get a substantial upgrade to the Retina MacBook Air. This is actually the first substantial upgrade to the Retina MacBook Air yet since its debut in 2018. They did have a very, very minor update in 2019 where they dropped the price by $100 and introduced a True Tone display. This one is much more substantial. So for this video, we're gonna go over everything that's new about the 2020 MacBook Air. At the end of the video, I'm also going to give some buying advice on if you should get this MacBook Air, or maybe you should consider another laptop in Apple's lineup. And again, I want to reiterate before we go full into the video that this is not a review. I know a lot of people are very hyped when new Apple products come out. They want to order it as soon as possible. They don't want to wait for the full reviews to drop, which come like weeks later. So this is my best advice possible at this moment. This is not a full review. Now, the design of the overall Retina MacBook Air has stayed mostly the same, 99% the same. However, there is actually two small changes. So number one, the weight was increased by just 0.5 pounds. Not anything crazy, but there is a very, very, very minuscule weight difference between the 2018 and 2019 version of the Air compared to this 2021. So it goes from 2.75 pounds to 2.8 pounds. Another thing that changed was the maximum thickness. So the 2018 and 29 models at its thickest point is 0.61 inches. The 2020 model at its thickest point is 0.63 inches. Now, maybe why it is slightly thicker is to put in the brand new keyboard. So this 2020 MacBook Air is getting rid of the butterfly keyboard and replacing it with a Magic Keyboard, the same one that we saw on the 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro. Well, not entirely the same, because this one still retains the function key row, whereas the MacBook Pros have the touch bar. But the changes don't stop there. Now the MacBook Air is also getting some CPU upgrades to the Intel 10th generation of CPUs. This is the first Mac in the entire lineup. Even the 16-inch MacBook Pro is using a 9th generation Intel CPU. So this is the first MacBook to be receiving the new 10th generation CPUs. Now there are three processor options for the MacBook Air. There is a 1.1 gigahertz dual core i3 that turbo boosts up to 3.2 gigahertz. You can also upgrade the processor to either a 1.1 gigahertz quad core Core i5 processor with turbo boost up to 3.5 gigahertz, or a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core i7 with turbo boost up to 3.8 gigahertz. And some reporting out of the website 6 Colors, we are getting our first look at some sample Geekbench scores for the Core i5 model, with a single core score of 1047 and a multi-core score of 2658. So you can see some significant gains in the single-threaded performance and a lot of gain in the multi-threaded performance on the Core i5 model when you compare it to the 2018 version. You do also get better integrated graphics as well. So the MacBook Air of 2018 and 2019 came with Intel UHD Graphics 617. The 2020 version has an upgraded Intel Iris Plus graphics. Apple is claiming that this will deliver an increase of up to 80% faster graphics power. Another important thing to note about that graphics upgrade is that it will allow the MacBook Air to drive a 6K external display, so you can use the Apple Pro Display XDR with a MacBook Air. And while we're talking about all these other specs, I should also mention the storage situation. So the entry-level MacBook Air now comes with 256 gigabytes of solid-state storage as standard. When you compare that against the 2018 and 2019 model, those only came with 126 gigabytes of solid-state storage. And they didn't just double the storage, they also gave a price drop as well. So the Retina MacBook Air now starts at $999. The old 2019 model started at $1,099. And if you're a student, you can get it for $899 through Apple Education pricing. Now there's still some more upgraded features to talk about, including a new 3-array microphone. Apple is saying this microphone will allow for more clear voice capture for FaceTime calls with friends and family. Now, even though they are saying the microphone is better, I think we should kind of taper down our expectations a little bit. That's because Apple has used the wording of a studio quality microphone on the 16-inch MacBook Pro and also the brand new 2020 iPad Pro. So they're not calling these microphones studio quality microphones. They're just saying that they're improved. So I'm not expecting the same level of quality that you might find on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And those microphones were very good. Now again, I do have to get the MacBook Air. I do have to test how good the microphone is, and I can do a direct comparison against the 16-inch MacBook Pro and the 2020 iPad Pro. So if you're interested in that microphone comparison, stick around for a later video. Apple's also claiming advanced stereo speakers for immersive wide stereo sound. All right, now let me talk about some buying advice. Again, this isn't a full review. This is just buying advice for people who want to order right away. I'm gonna try and give you my best judgment with my experience of using Apple laptops. Now, the first thing I have to say is this entry-level model at $999, I am really happy with what I'm seeing. It looks like we're basically getting the same processor performance as the 2018 and 2019 versions, and that's gonna be okay for lighter use. What do I mean by lighter tasks? Well, I mean like 90% of the tasks that most people do on a laptop. So if you're browsing the web, browsing social media, watching videos, if you're, even editing a few photos, editing 1080p video, for students, for people who are using this for business, a lot of word processing and stuff like that. That's the target audience for the entry-level model. And the reason why I'm so happy with it is that they finally got rid of the 128 gigabytes of storage. Bumping that up to 256 gigabytes is respectable. I think some people can definitely get by with just 256 gigabytes of storage. And while in the past I could never really recommend the entry-level model that strongly because 128 gigabytes running Mac OS was just way too small. So for $999 and $899 if you're a student, this looks like a really solid laptop. Now, it doesn't stop there. The old MacBook Air, you couldn't even upgrade the processor inside of it. With this MacBook Air, you get a few choices. So the first choice is you could spend an extra $100 to upgrade to a Core i5 quad-core processor. For $100 more, again, that was the same price as the 2019 MacBook Air, and you're still getting 128 gigabytes of storage extra. I think that is a respectable deal as well. I would tell probably most people if they can spend an extra $100 to just go with the quad-core variant. You're getting a big increase in multi-threaded performance, and that is going to be helpful when you do want to go away from some more of those basic tasks. When you are doing a little bit more video editing or photo editing, if you're a developer and you want a thin and light laptop and you want to build out your code faster, these are the types of people that should be looking at that quad-core variant because it does look like it's going to give you significantly more power for not that much more money. Now, the biggest question for me is if that Core i7 upgrade is worth it. That is a $250 upgrade from the Core i3 and a $150 upgrade from that Core i5. The biggest reason I'm concerned is the thermal performance of the MacBook Air. I'm not necessarily sure if you're going to be getting much higher sustained clock speeds over a prolonged period of time because the Core i5 turbo boosts up to 3.5 gigahertz and this Core i7 turbo boosts up to 3.8 gigahertz. If it's not hitting that 3.8 gigahertz range all that often, it might not even be worth it. And then again, the single core performance is only rated at 0.1 gigahertz higher. Not necessarily sure if that's going to play out very well from a value perspective. As for other upgrades like RAM, again, if you're doing the basic tasks, I think 8 gigabytes is fine. If you plan to have a lot of applications open at once, then maybe go for the 16 gigabytes. If you're doing video editing, definitely get a 16 gigabyte model. If you're doing development, again, that extra RAM will definitely help out. Now, in all of my buying advice videos, there has been a theme of other products that you might want to consider instead of this specific product, the 2020 MacBook Air. Now, you might have also heard some other unusual language from me. I was talking about the MacBook Air as being used for video and photo editing when I usually tell people to kind of not look at this laptop for that use case. And I usually recommend the entry-level 13-inch MacBook Pro. However, and there is a big however, because I'm not necessarily sure yet on this advice because I still need to test the 2020 MacBook Air, but the entry-level MacBook Pro has a quad-core processor. The MacBook Air for $100 more, so $1,100, has a quad-core processor. The 13-inch MacBook Pro starts at $1,300 and only comes with a 128GB solid-state drive. The 2020 MacBook Air has a 256GB solid-state drive as standard. Now, obviously, you will have to wait until the full review before I can tell you whether the 13-inch MacBook Pro or the 13-inch MacBook Air is the better buy. I will be comparing them directly, so stay tuned for videos on that subject. But from what I can see on paper, the 13-inch MacBook Pro is $300 more, comes with 128GB less of storage. So if you wanted to upgrade the storage, you're looking at $1,500. And with the MacBook Air, you can get a quad-core version for $100 more. And then again, that i7 version is going to be $250 more, but that's still $50 less than the entry-level MacBook Pro. So again, my advice for now is to not even consider the entry-level 13-inch MacBook Pro or even the higher configurations with the 4 USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports, because these will be replaced eventually with versions that have the Magic Keyboard. They'll probably have a nice spec bump to go alongside with it, and they'll probably also get the storage doubling that the MacBook Air had. I mean, it kind of looks weird now that you can buy a $1,000 MacBook Air that has double the storage of a $1,300 13-inch MacBook Pro. So again, stay away from the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Let me get the MacBook Air and run some benchmarks and some performance tests to see how it stacks against that entry-level model. All right, everyone, hopefully that video helped you out. If it did, make sure you leave me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, including a full review of the 2020 MacBook Air, make sure you're subscribed. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the brand new 2020 MacBook Air? If you want to support the channel out in any way, make sure you check out some of the links in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.